Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Canada Info Hub channel YouTube live. I was just, if you can hear my voice, please say hello. If you can hear me, please say hello. I can see some comments already waiting for me. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the YouTube live. I can see some comments already. If you can hear me, if you can see me, please say hello. Okay, good to know. I am seeing some hellos now, so I am happy that at least you can hear me. And it's just 2 minutes to the set time. That's my time is actually Atlantic time, so it's 2 minutes to 4 p.m. So I would wait until it is 4 p.m. and then we can start. But in the interim, you can tell me where you are watching me from, wherever you are. Where are you watching me from? I can see some familiar names. I already see some familiar names. So those are my people. And thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube live. I'm so grateful. Today has been one very snowy day here in New Brunswick, and I was wondering whether New Brunswick is now like Manny Snowbar. I don't understand. Today has been snowing seriously in New Brunswick, so I'm just watching. Yeah, Nainamo, British Columbia. Yeah, my person, I know you now. Yeah, part of the inner caucus. Okay, Oluwatosin from Nigeria, Lagos. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. From Sweden, Loretta Brooks from Sweden. Thank you for joining me. While we wait for more people to join this live session, I am so excited. Oh, wow, what happened? Okay, so yeah. I'm so excited that you are here today, and it's been a while. I was just trying to check my YouTube to see when last I did a YouTube live, and I discovered I did a YouTube live last December 2022. So over 1 year now, I've actually not done a YouTube live, and that was because I was moving from one place to another. Okay, your Seed of Abraham, you're joining me from Toronto, Ontario. Thank you so much for joining me. Yvonne, thank you for joining me from Ghana, Accra. I've forgotten how to greet in which language again? Jeez, please bear with me. I'll learn your language. I like languages. Somehow I have forgotten to greet in the Twi. Is it Twi or Twi? Yeah, Twi Ghanaian language. I'll learn it very well. And next time I will say hello in Ghanaian language. Okay, so it's already 4 p.m. my time. While we wait for the others to join, I will not waste too much of your time. If they join, fine. If they don't join, no problem. I'll go ahead and start answering the questions. And I will start with a filmer who has sent her own question. She actually did put it on one of the YouTube videos, and I said I was going to create a video about it, but it's even good that she has put it here so that I can answer it as fast as possible. So the question is, what is the future of computer science studies since STEM is no longer among the selected occupations for PR? So I just want to clarify this. STEM is one of the occupations that, how will I put it now, is no longer in demand under the category-based draw. Not that it's not in demand, it's in demand, but they've paused it under the category-based draw. So one thing about Canada immigration is that there are over 80 pathways, although those pathways have now shrinked, which I will do a comprehensive list of what is still available and the ones that are paused, so that everybody can have them and you can use them to guide you. But what they paused was the STEM draw. That's the STEM occupations for category-based draw. The category-based draw is under express entry. So if somebody who is a computer science person, a computer science graduate, and is a tech person working on that STEM, the person can still get a provincial nomination that is not tied to category-based. So let's say the person is in British Columbia. There's a tech category for students who have finished from British Columbia. So the person can still get provincial nomination, and it is not going to be tied to express entry. the person can still go through express entry under the general draw. So for the category-based draw, the draw scores are quite low, right? That is why a lot of people are actually positioning themselves under the category-based draw. But for the general draw, the draw scores are quite high. So even if the person does not qualify, it's not as if it doesn't qualify, they've paused it until the end of 2025. So even if the person is not able to get invited under the category-based draw, the person can still be invited under the general draw. The person can still get provincial nomination, depending on the province. For provinces like British Columbia, there's a tech draw. For provinces like Alberta, there's also a tech draw. For provinces like Ontario, they also do their tech draws, but they've for a while now they've not been doing tech draws because of the layoffs that is going on. So if you ask me, the person is still eligible for permanent residency, but under provincial nomination and under the general draw. The general draw, the person should be able to get a comprehensive ranking score as high as 500, 520 and above to get that invitation to apply for permanent residence. Then for provincial nomination, they have their own criteria that the person must meet. Most likely, like a job offer. If the person gets a job offer, a permanent full-time 1-year job offer in any of the tech occupations that is in demand, either in British Columbia, Ontario, or Alberta, then the person can get a provincial nomination. For some other provinces, like if the person is schooling in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, they don't really look at what you studied. You just apply for provincial nomination as long as you finish there. Maybe depends on the pathway. For instance, in New Brunswick, the person can apply for the student connection provincial nomination, and the person is good to go in getting their permanent residency. So please, I just want to clarify that even if the person is studying computer science, it doesn't mean that the person cannot get permanent residency. The person can still get permanent residency, but not under the category-based draw. I hope this has answered your question. So I'll move on to the next question. What is the best knock for a caregiver in the UK to use for Canadian immigration? Now, caregiver, there are different knock codes. It depends on the type of caregiving, and it depends on the job description assigned to the person. And it depends on the qualification that the person has, and it depends on where the person is working. For instance, if the person is working as a caregiver providing care for people in hospitals, right? In hospitals and in care homes, and the person has, let's say, a caregiving qualification or certificate to attach to it, that means the person can qualify as a healthcare assistant, and the knock code starts from 33 something. I don't have the correct knock code on my head, but I can find it and place it. I'll send it to you if you send me an email, right? That one, the person qualifies under the category-based draw for healthcare. But if the person is just providing care, not necessarily doing anything that has to do with medication, right? The person is not providing medication. The person is just providing care, cleaning and all of that, feeding and all of that. Then the person falls under the tier category 4. So for the tier category 4, it has its own immigration pathway, which they announced sometime this year that they were going to make some changes, but they have not fully announced how the changes will be. Till now, we are still waiting for when those changes will be completely announced. If they want to still follow the same pathway of opening a portal in January 1 where everybody applies, or if they want to change it, we don't know yet. So if you can send me an email so that I can give you the two tier codes so that you can look at it with your job description and look at the conditions around it. Like I said, one of them requires a certification in caregiving, and you must at least be working in a hospital or providing a healthcare assistant in a hospital or in a care home. Or the other one does not need you to administer medication to the patient. You just provide some form of care and feeding and, cleaning the person up and all of that. Then that one is on the lower category, falls under tier 4. I hope I've answered that question. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Yeah, so my people, please ask your questions. So I'll move on to the next one. How did you say draws are paused till December 2025? What is the fate of students who have recently completed studies? Okay, so Let me mention again, Canada immigration has over 80 pathways, right? But that was as at the beginning of this year. But with all the shrinking going on, some provinces have closed some pathways. So with that, right, we have the pathway that is the category-based draw. And for the category-based draw, everybody knows that the category-based draw under express entry, the draw scores are quite low. That is, if you have a comprehensive ranking score in the express entry pool that is very low, and your occupation is either under healthcare, STEM, agriculture, tech, or French and trades, there's a chance of getting an invitation to apply if your comprehensive ranking score is low and your occupation is actually falls under, or your occupation falls under any of those categories, right? So the government now announced that out of the 6 categories, they will pause 3 categories and only invite 3 categories. They didn't announce it per se. It was just an internal document that was an internal memo that one of the immigration lawyers was able to get from RUCC. Normally, if you want to get certain information from RUCC, we apply for what we call access to information. So this immigration lawyer did apply for that access to information. I was able to see the memo where they said they were going to pause the 3 categories out of the 6 categories under the category-based draw for express entry. And out of the 3 categories, they paused STEM, they paused agriculture, and they paused transportation. They left French, they left trades, and then they left which one again? French, trades, and healthcare. These 3 categories were the ones left, while they paused 3. So that internal memo said they were pausing it until next year, 2025, December 2025. Whether they will change it, whether they will not change it, we don't know. That is what we saw. That is what is published on the internal memo. And I think I will just maybe put it in the community tab so that you can see the memo and you can read it for yourself. Okay. So for the fate of students, depends on the province. If they can't go through the category-based draw, they can go through the general express entry draw. And if they can't get their PR through the general express entry draw, they can also get provincial nomination. So, I mean, there are options. It's not just that because they post 3 categories, then everything just ends. No, there are still options of getting PR. And they announced that the PR slots for 2025 is about 385,000 or 365,000 thereabouts. I don't have the accurate figure in my head right now, but that's what they said. So there is still slots for permanent residency next year. Everybody should I will encourage everybody to just position yourself to get your PR. All right, so I'll move on to the next question. How about for people in tech from outside of Canada, can they get provincial nomination with all the changes going on? I am yet to enter the pool. I have done my WES and plan to write my IELTS soon. Okay, so this is a good question. Now, people from outside Canada who are in tech, sadly, the category-based draw would have been the best option, but because it has paused now, the option you have to look out for is the provincial nomination option. And the only province that was actually doing provincial nomination under tech that will invite people from different parts of the world from the express entry pool was Ontario. And for a while, Ontario has not done any draw for tech. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be in the pool. You should be in the pool. It's just that if the federal government that has express entry have paused tech draw, Ontario typically follows the federal government. They follow the federal government at what they do. So when the federal government does a draw for tech, Ontario will now do their own draw. That's what they've been doing. But since the federal government have paused their draw, Ontario automatically has also paused its own draw for tech. But this is what you should do. There are other provinces that are also looking for tech workers. Sadly, you have to look for jobs in the tech industry in Canada. And you should focus on provinces like British Columbia and Alberta. These 2 provinces, they have tech pathways. Even Saskatchewan used to have as well too, but Saskatchewan is, I mean, for a while now, they've been focused on other aspects of inviting people through other streams, not tech. So if you want to focus on tech, and if you still want to get to Canada next year, your focus should be provincial nomination from British Columbia, provincial nomination from Alberta. But for these two places, you need to get, like for British Columbia, you need to have a job offer from BC for you to be eligible for a provincial nomination under their tech category. For Alberta, you can still be in the pool. Sometimes they go into the pool to pick people. They used to do that before they created their own expression of interest portal, right? But since they've created their own expression of interest portal, the only option that you have right now is to actually look for a job. And my recommendation is look for jobs around the rural communities. That's the Alberta Rural Renewal Stream. They have jobs advertised there, but sometimes you will not see what you're looking for. But sometimes you could see highly skilled jobs like tech jobs that is suitable to your occupation. So it is not that you cannot still get an invitation to apply. You can, if your draw scores are very high. That's just not draw, sorry. If your comprehensive ranking scores are very high, above the category based draw, you can still get an invitation to apply to come to Canada. Whether you have your occupation is in tech or not, you can still get an invitation to apply. But if your comprehensive ranking score is not high enough, then the alternative option is for you to search for provincial nomination, and the provincial nomination comes with you getting a job offer. That means you need to get a job offer in either British Columbia or Alberta. For Ontario, for now, there is no information. So that's the situation we have at the moment. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. My name is Debbie, learning French, and in my 40s, I still have hope for express entry and getting to Canada. You're taking a right step already. As long as you're learning French, that is the only thing I would say is breaking the barrier for immigration, because they are making all efforts to see how they can bring in more French people. So if you're learning French, yes, it's good. Try as much as possible to get the highest scores in French and also get the highest scores in English. And if you have a master's, then there's a possibility of you getting an invitation under express entry. But if you're not able to create an express entry profile, you also have option for provincial nominations from provinces like, well, Ontario will still need you to create an express entry profile. But that doesn't mean you can't get provincial nomination. You can still get provincial nomination from places like Manitoba and then New Brunswick. Sometimes, like New Brunswick used before they closed it, or they paused it. It's not closed, they paused it. New Brunswick has an immigration pathway where if you're a French person, all you need to do is visit New Brunswick, come as a visitor. And the rule is, at least you must be a first-time visitor to New Brunswick to explore. You explore the place, visit their schools, visit the provincial nomination office, have a discussion with them, and then you have a potential of getting provincial nomination from New Brunswick just by visiting alone. They had it before, they call it the strategic stream, and they just recently posted it. They posted about, I think, November 28th, thereabout. Yeah, they posted, that was when they posted. So that's for French. But that doesn't stop you. If you have French language skills, they do recruitment events. There is what we call Destination Canada. And for Destination Canada, you just register. You have lots of employers who are looking for people who can speak French, communicate in French. They will hire you and then they will bring you in. And one thing about the people with French language skills is that if you get a job offer from a Canadian employer, they don't need an LMIA to bring you in. So it's an LMIA except that's automatically, they don't need to apply for LMIA to bring you in. So there's no rule around LMIA for people with French language skills. So even if you can't come in through express entry, you have several other options that you can come in with your French language skills. All right, so I'll move on to the next. 44 years, BSc Electronics and Telecom Engineering, MSc Accounting, banker, teacher for about 15 years. Since school route is not working again, what is our chance? Okay, it's not as if school route is not working, oh, right? Let me just clear the air. It's not as if school route is not working. School route is working. It's just that there has been back-to-back announcement, and they're trying to make some changes to make it organized. But for you, if your wife is a teacher, depends on what she has been doing as a teacher. Is she an early childhood educator, or she's a primary school teacher or a secondary school teacher? If she is an early childhood educator, right, you have opportunities for early childhood educators because they're actually looking for people that can teach at that category. So what she needs to do is to try to get the equivalency. There's a licensing equivalency that is given by province, not all provinces. Like I know it's easy to get the licensing as an early childhood educator from Alberta and from British Columbia. Now, if you get the license, it is possible to also get a job offer because it is hard. This occupation is actually in demand. There are lots of people, lots of what do you call it now? Daycare centers, early childhood centers that are looking for early childhood educators that are qualified and that are licensed. So if she's able to get the license, she should make effort in trying to push to get a job offer in the rural communities, not the city center. Focus on the rural communities because that's where the employers are looking for people. In the city center, they are not looking for people. But if you look at the focus on the rural areas, especially Alberta rural community, the ones that are under the Alberta Rural Renewal Stream, same thing with the British Columbia rural communities, the ones that are under the British Columbia Rural Renewal Stream. If you look at the British Columbia provincial nomination, early childhood education is one of the priority occupations in BC. So these two provinces, if you can get their license and focus on getting a job offer there, then it's possible to get not just, it's possible to actually apply for provincial nomination and then apply for work permits. So it's a job offer that is tied to a PR pathway. So you're not just coming as a worker, you're coming and then you have your PR application ongoing. Probably you could even get your PR approved before your work permit is even approved, right? So that's the recommendation I would give. The next question, 42, a cook, how can I relocate? So for the hospitality industry, it has not been easy. The place I can tell you to focus on is BC, British Columbia. If typically there is no cook, the cook occupation is actually not in demand, except maybe in the Atlantic provinces, right? Under maybe AIP, that's Atlantic Immigration Pilot, places like Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, those occupations, you can find them under the Atlantic Immigration Pilot. So the only thing you can do is to search for a job. If you want to immigrate through other routes, it's very difficult. So this particular occupation, I would only recommend that you search for a job in these provinces: BC, the Atlantic provinces like Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and then New Brunswick as well. Did I mention New Brunswick before? I don't know. Okay, so just look for a job that is tied to a PR pathway. I mentioned AIP. AIP is a PR pathway. If you get a job in BC, you can also apply for this low skills immigration stream. Okay, I'll move on to the next. You and your son want to travel to Canada and work over there. You just finished SAS. How can be of help? So I don't know which type of pathway are you looking at. If is it your son that wants to be the applicant or you want to be the applicant, so that I know how to advise. If you will be the applicant, I will tell you, you give me your background and I can advise. But if it's your son that wants to be the applicant, that means your son has to come through study because he's young. If he just finished high school, your son is young, he might not be able to get a job offer. So the best option is for him to come as a student. And then if you want to accompany him when you come, sadly, you may not be able to get work permit. You might just get a visitor's visa or a visitor's record just to be with him. Okay. Question. My husband wants to move as a trade on phone technician, repairs of phone. So the trade occupation, there are specific occupations that aligns with the category-based draw for trade. And phone technician is not one of them, sadly. Phone technician is not one of them. If it was one of them, then I would say, yes, there's a possibility. But as long as it is not one of the occupations in demand, that means you have to switch. You have to pivot to something that is more in demand. We have plumbing, we have welding, we have electrician, we have HVAC. You know, there are about 10 occupations that are in demand under the trades category. But apart from that, if you do something else that is still within trades, but not under the category-based draw, there's a possibility of getting provincial nomination. Okay, I'll move on to the next. How can one who schooled in another province get New Brunswick provincial nomination? So if you schooled in another province and you want to get New Brunswick provincial nomination, you have to move to New Brunswick and live in New Brunswick for at least 6 months before you become eligible for a provincial nomination under the skilled workers stream or under the Atlantic immigration pilot. You need to have lived in New Brunswick for at least 6 months before you become eligible to apply for provincial nomination under the skilled worker stream or the Atlantic immigration pilot. So for now, because we're already in December, New Brunswick has exhausted their slots except one. And then that particular one is the New Brunswick critical worker pilot. So the critical worker pilot has 6 employers. In fact, I will also mention this as well. So there are 6 employers under the New Brunswick critical worker pilot. These 6 employers, the government has given them the mandate to hire people, and then anybody they hire is eligible to apply for provincial nomination. So this is the only pathway that is still left that has not exhausted its own slot. So if you want to move, the only advice I can give to you is try to get a job offer under the New Brunswick critical worker pilot. There are 6 employers. Focus on getting a job offer from those 6 employers. If you're able to get a job offer, then you can apply for provincial nomination. But the 6 months residency requirement is also important as well. Okay. Next. Oh, okay. You want to speak with me? The GCMS note was sent, but you have to get a response. Okay. So my admin will, I think she was trying to book a date with me sometime last week, but I don't know what happened. Probably this week we should talk. I'll tell her to book a date so that we can talk. All right. I'll move on to the next. Trade skill pathway. How can someone acquire a trade skill that will pass for a trade pathway? So trade skill, right? The trade pathway for the category base, there are how many? I think about 10 occupations under that particular pathway. If you do an apprenticeship with under any of those occupations, and then you get 6 months work experience, you qualify to apply for the trades pathway. So there's plumbing, there's welding there's carpentry there's HVAC, there is a supervisor. So if you're a supervisor in a construction company that does maybe carpentry or furniture, you qualify, right? You qualify if you're a supervisor. So depends on where you are, you need to have the certificate. If you did an apprenticeship, for some countries, they don't have a formal education for such trades. So you have to meet the federal, I'll use Nigeria as an example. Nigeria does not have trade school that gives certificates. You do an apprenticeship with the people that have those, that are working in those occupations or that have a business under those occupations. So once you finish your apprenticeship, you can take your apprenticeship to the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor to regularize your apprenticeship. Then the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor will give you a certificate. That certificate is recognized by the government of Canada. So by the time you present it, if you say you're a plumber and you present that certificate from the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor, the government of Canada will acknowledge it because that is what they recognize. But if you just provide only the apprenticeship certificate that was given to you by the person that you learned from, they will not recognize it. So if you're currently doing an apprenticeship at this time, so that you can qualify for the trades category, once you finish, take your apprenticeship to the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor and get it certified. They will give you the one that the government of Canada recognizes. So that is the one you will use for your application. Okay, so I hope I've answered that question. If I've not answered it well, you can ask your question again. 50 years old, did 2 years master's degree in Manitoba, worked over 1 year in my field of study, CELPIP 12887. Sadly, you will not be able to create a profile, an express entry profile, but you can apply for provincial nomination. So the portal for provincial nomination is actually different from the express entry portal. So don't, if you're not able to create a profile, don't kill yourself about it. You will still get PR through provincial nomination. Provincial nomination has its own portal. Atlantic Immigration Pilot has its own portal. The Child Caregiver Pathway has its own portal. Family Sponsorship has its own. Like, there are over 10 immigration pathways that have their own independent portal that is not tied to express entry. So if you're not able to create an express entry profile, don't bother yourself. You will still get a provincial nomination from Manitoba. The good thing is that you schooled in Manitoba, which I'm very happy about. And the age range is between, I think, is it between 18 to 55 or thereabout? I think thereabout where you get the highest mark for age. But the good thing is that you will still get provincial nomination and you can still apply for permanent residency through provincial nomination, not through express entry. Because, I mean, with your age, you cannot be able to create an express entry profile. All right. So I'll move on to the next. In Canada, under closed work permits, kindly you may connect me to any employer currently hiring under LMIA for the position of food counter attendant or factory laborer jobs. Okay, so when it comes to connection with employers, I really do not have, because it's the employers that come to meet me. Once there is an opportunity, they meet me and I share the opportunity. But if I don't have, at this point in time, I don't have any employer that is currently hiring that has LMIA. And you know, LMIA has become something else now. The government has just been refusing people's LMIA's application. So for now, I don't have. But the advice I can give is look for an employer that is LMIA, look for a pathway that is, how will I put it now? That is LMIA exempt. Yes, look for a pathway that is LMIA exempt. The RNIP pathway or the AIP. AIP is LMIA exempt. RNIP is LMIA exempt. Although RNIP, they've paused it, they've not announced when they would restart it again. But look for a pathway that is LMIA exempt so that you don't put yourself under pressure trying to get an employer that has LMIA. Okay, I'll move on to the next. Not code for the caregiver. Okay, yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so grateful. My correct Oga. This is my correct Oga. He's my very correct Oga. Thank you so much for sharing the tier code. So the tier code for caregivers is 33102. Yes, that's correct. Okay, I'll move on to the next. How can one get WES certified under trade in Nigeria? Most universities, I've already talked about it. I said that WES does not recognize trade. Most universities do not have trades in Nigeria. It's done through apprenticeship. So once the person has finished their apprenticeship with their Oga or whoever they are working with, they take their certificate to the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. Take that particular apprenticeship certificate to the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. The Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor will give you a document that is recognized by the government of Canada. That document does not need to be evaluated by WES. It does not need evaluation, right? You can evaluate your bachelor's degree. You can evaluate your master's degree. And then if you have a trades qualification or a trades experience, that trades qualification should be recognized by the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. With that document, the government of Canada will accept it. Okay, so I'm just getting this. Alberta has paused their tech pathway, AAIP. Okay, so this is another information. So for those who are looking at the tech option, it's only British Columbia that is left. But I'll reconfirm this. 38 years old nurse in Nigeria, written IELTS, which province and what part will be more suitable for you to immigrate? So as a nurse, there are lots of opportunity for you as a nurse, especially if you're a registered nurse. I don't know if you've evaluated your credential yet, and you've started writing the or if you've applied to NAS, NNAS, is it NNAS or NNASS, something like that? Yeah. So if you've done that, number one, you have opportunity in Alberta. Number two, you have opportunity in Nova Scotia. Number three, you have opportunity in British Columbia. If you've written or evaluated your credential and you've started your NNAS, Alberta is actually recruiting nurses. Same thing with Nova Scotia and British Columbia. They are recruiting nurses, right? So if you can send me an email so that I can share the link with you for you to prepare yourself and then position yourself and apply. And apart from that, Morden is in Manitoba. Morden is a community in Manitoba. You don't need a family support from Morden for you to apply for provincial nomination or community recommendation from Morden to apply for provincial nomination. All you need to do is to apply to Morden, and then they will evaluate you, and then if they need you, they will send you a committee recommendation. With that committee recommendation, you can apply for provincial nomination. It does not come with support. As at the last time I checked on their website, they were looking for nurses and doctors. For nurses, you need to have their IELTS requirement is quite high. So if your IELTS score is not as high as what they are looking for, that means you do not qualify. You have to go write IELTS again. So, but look at Morden. The spelling is Morden, Morden Immigration in Manitoba. That is the only one I know that does not need family support. Besides that, Alberta is also recruiting. Nova Scotia, they have an interim, they'll give you a provisional license kind of, and then British Columbia also has its own as well. So that's the opportunity for nurses. And then for Saskatchewan as well too. Saskatchewan has their own healthcare. They announced their healthcare pathway. Was it around October thereabout? Yeah, I think so. October. Healthcare and agri pilot for nurses, international educated nurses. So if you get a job offer and all of that, you get provincial nomination. Okay, apply for a work permit and PR, and I want to know if a school support letter is required for my children's study permit. I've contacted an LS school but no response. Please advise. Yes, so if you're applying for a work permit and PR, it's very important that you must have letter of enrollment attached to your children's application. If not, they'll refuse it. That's one of the major requirements. You've contacted the school board, but go to the school directly. Let them just give you a letter of enrollment. That's all. You don't need to go to the school board. If the school can just give you a letter that, okay, these people are enrolled in school in grade 9, grade 10, that's what they want to see. That's what IRCC wants to see in your application for work permit. All right. I jumped your question. I don't know if I jumped your question. No, I know I'm taking it. I'm just scrolling down bit by bit. Please bear with me if I jumped your question. Okay, I've seen this question. What is rate of getting visitors visa? Okay, so I'm going to be sincere with you. You know me, I don't know how to sugarcoat. If people sugarcoat me, I cannot sugarcoat. I will tell you the truth. I will tell you how it is. If you're applying for visiting visa this period, the chances of getting it, especially if you do not have a family member in Canada. When I mean family member, you do not have a brother, you do not have a sister, you do not have a father, mother in Canada, direct sibling in Canada, the chances are very, very low. If you apply for a visitor's visa for tourism, there is a high chance of refusal because a lot of people came in with visitors visa and they claimed asylum. So Canada is trying to plug all these loopholes and they are just refusing visiting visa applications these days. So if you don't have any direct sibling, and even if you have a direct sibling, if you don't have a reason for visiting your direct sibling, right, the chances of approval is very, very low. But that does not mean you cannot try. You can try, but I'll tell you the truth. The chances of approval is very low, especially for tourism, for business, for conference is very low because of what is going on. They are trying to reduce the number of people coming to claim asylum. Okay. How do you get the early childhood education license if you are a nursery teacher in Nigeria? So the early childhood education license is issued by province. Depends on the province. For Alberta, like I said, it's easier to get it. They will just evaluate what you have done. You send them your transcript. Okay, so there's one, I think one lady, what she did was she took a course. I think that course was about $450 thereabout from one school in Alberta. She did that course and then use that course to apply for the license, because the license is in two phases. There's the license 1 and license 2 for Alberta. So the one she did was eligible for license 1, and they gave her the certificate. With the certificate, she applied for, sorry, she did a course, right? So with that course, she now applied for the ECE license 1 certificate in Alberta, and they told her to provide transcripts. So with the transcripts she submitted, I believe she should have gotten that license by now. So with that license, she should be able to apply for a job in Alberta. If you can send me an email so that I can send you the link, and then you go through it, then you should be able to, do it yourself. Okay. Cost handle. Okay, so please send me an email for this one. I cannot share the information during this live session. You can send me an email, and depends on what you want to do. Okay, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really grateful. I really appreciate your presence. It's been a while I did this, so I'm excited that at least I'm back to doing this. Yeah. Okay, if a student completes studies and applied for PR through the student pathway in NB, can you leave Canada while the PR application is submitted? Yes, you can always travel. I mean, if you have a visa to go in and out of Canada, you can always go in and out of Canada. Nobody is holding you. If you want to stay in Canada till your PR is approved. But typically, if your PR is about to be approved, they'll send you an email to confirm your address, where your address is. If you are still outside Canada, that means you have to mention that your address is outside Canada. That means you now have to send your passport to the visa office closest to you. If you're in Nigeria, where you send your passport to will be in Accra, right? But if you're in Canada, they will just do in Canada landing for you, and that's it. You don't need to send your passport anywhere. But traveling, you can travel in and out. Nobody's restricting your movement. Okay. My friend who has toddlers has given me a job as a child caregiver, hoping to benefit from the caregiver to PR pathway to be launched soon. What should she consider to be eligible? Okay, so this is a good question. For those of us who are in Canada looking to that we have minor children, toddlers, and we need support in some way, what your friend needs to do is to register her name with the CRA, with the Canada Revenue Agency. She will register her name as a business and register a payroll with the Canada Revenue Agency. She should give you a job offer. Then one thing they also consider is the income of the family. So if the family is low income and the family wants to hire somebody to come and provide care for their minor children, they also consider the income. They're like, this person, you're earning 50,000 naira, you're employing somebody, how would you pay the person, right? So they consider the income of the family. But if the income of the family is high, let's say the income of the family is about $150,000, then the family is comfortable enough to hire somebody and pay the person's salaries. So those are the things they consider. Number one, the person should register with CRA, get a business number. That's a personal business number, the payroll number. And then number two, they also consider the income of the family. How high the family income is will determine if the person will be able to, post, as in the person they're hiring, if it will be approved or not. So you have to put that into consideration. Your friend that is about to hire you, what is their family income, family net income? Is it above 100,000 or below $100,000? You have to consider inflation as well. If it's above $100,000, there's a possibility, but if it's below $100,000, I mean, the visa officers will say these people don't really have enough money to want to hire somebody to be paying the person about $18 to $17 per hour. Depends on the province as well. To some provinces are low income, provinces like Manitoba and all of that. But even with that, that's what I mean low income. I mean their minimum wage, right? Minimum wage per hour. They look at all those considerations as well. If the person is in a province like Ontario, where the minimum wage is about $16 or $17 per hour, and the person is earning below $100,000, then you know that this person cannot afford to hire you and then pay you their minimum wage because they are paying by the hour. But if the person is earning above $150,000 to $200,000, $300,000, then the person is capable of hiring you. So that's what they consider when it comes to the child caregiver pathway. And then for you as well, you should also have the qualifications, because it's not just, oh, I have children, I can take care of children. You should have the experience. You should be able to show proof of your experience, and also show proof of at least a certification. If you don't have a certification yet, I would say try as much as possible to get a certification from a recognized school, to show that you have gone through the training of being able to provide care for minor children and all of that, because they also consider those factors as well. Okay. Can one apply for a PMP while having an active EE profile and get to add it later? Sadly, when you say active EE profile, have you received an invitation to apply yet? If you've not received an invitation to apply yet, yes. So typically for provincial nomination, when you are applying for provincial nomination, there is a question they usually ask. Depends on the province, or all provinces usually ask that question. Do you have an active EE profile? You answer yes. Can you provide your EE profile number? You provide it. Can you provide your job seeker validation code? You provide it. With those details, if you get a provincial nomination, your 600 points would automatically be credited to your express entry. But if you do not have an express entry profile and you have received a provincial nomination, you cannot go and create an express entry profile again to add that 600 points. No, you have to apply independently for provincial nomination or for PRO under provincial nomination pathway. I hope I've answered that question. Okay, so I'm trying to rush to answer so many questions before the 1 hour mark. Currently in Canada as a student, I just finished my 1-year program in project management. I am looking for a 2nd-year program to go for. Is supply chain a good course to study? Yes. So supply chain is a good course to study, and also depends on the province you are in. I don't know which province you are in, but generally supply chain is good all over Canada. Wherever you find yourself, supply chain is a good course, and it's actually one of the courses that is eligible for postgraduate work permit. Is one of the courses that is in demand. So, as in occupations that is in demand under transport, although they've paused the transport, what do you call it now? Transport draw, or transport for category-based draw, right? But depends on the province you are in. If you're in a province like Ontario, you qualify for the Ontario International Student Stream, because this particular course is one of the courses that is in demand, and depends on what you do. So supply chain is actually broad. You can be working as a material handler, supply chain, anything under supply chain is very broad. So whatever you are working as, you qualify for the International Student Stream in Ontario. If it's Ontario that you're schooling, you also qualify for the foreign worker stream if it is in Ontario that you schooled in, right? Under express entry, it has to be the general draw, not the category-based draw again, because under the category-based, they've paused the transport category-based draw. Okay, how about the caregiver pathway announced in June? Can a visitor in Canada apply? So the caregiver pathway that was announced in June, they've not come back to tell us how it is going to be like. Whether we will continue with what was done previously, we don't know. What was done previously was that January 1, they will open a portal, and it's a first come, first serve basis, meaning it is fastest fingers. January 1, at a particular time, the portal is open. The person that is able to submit the application as fast as possible is the person that they will consider and give an acknowledgement of receipt. Once the cap is full, I think they allocate about 2,500 slots to the child caregiver pathway. Once that 2,500 slots is filled, it gets closed automatically. And typically it gets filled within minutes, within minutes, because you have lots of people from all over the world trying to use that same pathway to bring their caregivers into Canada. Now, if you are in Canada and a visitor, if you can apply, yes, you can apply for that pathway. Like I said, it opens up January 1. It's how fast you are. That is according to what was done before. But when they announced it in June, they didn't tell us whether they will change what they have been doing or they will continue with what they have been doing. We don't know. If they will continue with what they have been doing, that means you have to wait until January 1. If your employer has, what do you call it now? If your employer has given you a job offer, if your employer meets the requirements, which I talked about earlier, like the income requirement, having a CRA number, having a payroll number, and all of that, and then you having the qualifications to apply, you can apply, whether you're in Canada or you're outside Canada. It's the PRO you apply for first. Then once you get the acknowledgement of receipt from IRCC that they've received the application, with that acknowledgement of receipt, you then apply for work permit. Now, in terms of applying for the work permit, you can apply for work permit inside Canada, but if they approve it, you have to leave Canada and come back before you get the work permit, right? You can apply for the work permit in Canada, but if they approve it, you have to leave Canada and come back. You cannot flagpole to get the work permit. Oh, please, if I skipped your question, please send it again, please. Okay, yes, sir. So my correct number one, Oga, is telling me that to tell people that, okay, that asylum is not advisable. I have seen many Nigerians here in BC and Brandon MB approach me that they came with visa and plan to stay back. So asylum, like my correct brother is saying, I don't really usually advise. Funny enough, I'm not licensed because my license covers only all the other immigration pathways. It does not cover refugee and asylum claim. So I'm not licensed to really talk about asylum, but I can just give a general advice, right? Please, the statistics is clear. If you check the statistics, I can pull it out later on and publish it or talk about it in a separate video. The statistics about the number of people that they are giving PR via asylum claim, it's clear. It's not much. So it's not a pathway that I would advise that anybody takes. It's a pathway that is filled with so many emotional stress, emotional, physical, mental stress, because every day you're worried whether your asylum claim will be approved or not approved. If your case is genuine, you have everything genuine, fine. But if your case is not genuine and somebody just advised you to say, go and use visa, go and claim asylum, please don't listen to that person. It's a trap. It's a trap that a lot of people have fallen into and they are regretting why they are inside that trap, So please, it's better to look for a different pathway to come into Canada and get your PR status than claiming asylum. It's not a good, it's not a route that gives you peace of mind. And for me personally, I like my peace of mind. And anything that will steal my peace, I don't really involve in it, So please take the advice of my correct brother concerning this. Okay. So yeah, so he has given me the tier code for the one that qualifies for the healthcare express entry draw and the one that has the caregiver pathway. So for the caregiver pathway is 44101, and then for the one that qualifies under the healthcare category based draw is 33102. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Brother is relocating to Canada as a farm worker on a closed work permit for 3 years. How can he get PR? Okay, so this is a good question. If your brother is relocating to Canada as a farm worker on a closed work permit for 3 years, depends on the type of farm work. We have the agri-food pilot. The agri-food pilot is a pathway that requires that the person must have worked in Canada for 1 year in certain occupations. Not all occupations qualify, so it depends on the occupation that your brother is coming to work on, right? Not all agri occupations qualify for the agri-food pilot, but the agri-food pilot is there. After 1 year, he can apply for permanent residence under the agri-food pilot. And the good thing about it is that the IELTS requirement is very low, a band 4, very, very low. It's one of the lowest. Same thing as the caregiver pathway. IELTS or CELP requirement or that's this language requirement is very, very low. So for your brother, after 1 year, he qualifies. Depends on his occupation, because I don't know what his occupation is, right? You just said farm worker. I don't know which type of farm worker. So if he is under the occupation that is part of the agri-food pilot, he qualifies for the agri-food pilot. All he needs is just 1 year work, and then he will apply for permanent residency. Okay. Most trade skill job is very informal. Sometimes payment is done in cash by hand. How can one show work experience? Most of the companies on trade operate informally. Well, anything IRCC, right? I'll be sincere with you. They don't like people saying cash. I was paid in cash. When you tell them I was paid in cash, automatically it sets an alarm bell for them that this person is trying to hide something. So as much as possible, let the employer know that the person wants to use the work experience for something very important, and let them at least pay through bank account. Most of these employers, they have their businesses registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. And if they have their businesses registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, they should be encouraged. I know that Nigeria, sometimes a lot of people do not want to go with bank and wahala, right? But encourage the employer to make their salary payment through bank account and not cash. That will help. Okay, so okay, so he's telling me there's a vocational school in Lagos, Oshodi, and even other states. Okay, that is fantastic. If there's a vocational school, that's fantastic. But like I said, the certificate has to come from the federal government, which is the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. Even if the vocational school has issued their own certificate, their own certificate will not be recognized by IRCC. The one that is recognized by IRCC is the one issued by the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. So they have to still go to the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor to get the certificate for that vocational program. Okay, my time is running. Oh, please, if I've not answered your question, please forgive me. Okay, that's fine. You want an appointment with me? That's fine. Please bear with me. My time is running out. 1 year postgraduate studies here in Canada. If I get full-time job offer, is it advisable to go for it or go back to school so I can get 3 years PGWP instead of 1 year PGWP? Just finished my 1 year postgraduate studies here in Canada. I don't know which province you are in for me to advise. So for those who did 1 year program, this is what I typically advise, that after your program, you have 180 days to apply for PGWP. Within that 180 days, try as much as possible to get a job offer. Like, try as much as possible to get a job offer. And once you get a job offer, or let's say you will resume on Monday, you got a job offer, let's say last week, Wednesday, right? You can then put in your application for PGWP. And when you put in your application for PGWP, you get what you call interim authorization to work. That interim authorization to work tells you that they will make a decision on your PGWP application within the next 6 months. Typically, it's 6 months. So you have technically 1 year and 6 months to be able to get your PR. Now, depends on the province you are in. If you are in a province like Manitoba, it's possible for you to get your provincial nomination within 6 months, or after 6 months of finishing your program, or 6 months of working, or immediately. Depends, right? If you're in a province like Manitoba. If you're in a province like New Brunswick, you can get your provincial nomination within 6 months, even before your PGWP is even approved. A lot of people have gotten their provincial nomination before their PGWP was approved in New Brunswick because of the student connection stream, right? So it depends on the province. If you're in Ontario, it's quite tricky. Ontario, you have to be strategic in terms of the kind of job you get, the location, right? You have to be very strategic, because if you're not strategic to get a job in an occupation that is in demand, that means you have to move out of Ontario and try to focus on getting a job offer somewhere, either in a province that will give you provincial nomination as fast as possible. A province like New Brunswick, if you stay in New Brunswick for 6 months, it's possible to get provincial nomination after 6 months. But if you move to a province like Manitoba, you have to live in Manitoba for 1 year first before you actually apply for provincial nomination. So I wouldn't even advise you to go to a province like Manitoba. But if you want to remain in Ontario, you have to look for a job that aligns with your occupation in demand. Do not look for a job that aligns with your studies. Look for a job that aligns with the occupations that are in demand, because the jobs that aligns with the occupations in demand is what they do draws for from time to time. The ones for the international student stream, sometimes they will just pick one or two occupations that aligns, right? Like this year, they did for the international student stream and foreign worker stream. They only picked people that had experience in early childhood education, and then after that they now did a general draw and picked some occupations, not even all occupations, they just picked some occupations. So you have to align yourself properly if you are in Ontario. I don't know which province you are in for me to give you a proper advice if you should go for a 3 years PGWP or if you still maintain that 1 year. Somebody I know, she did only 1 year in Ontario. Immediately she finished from Ontario. I hope she's not seeing this video. Immediately she finished from 1 year in Ontario, she moved herself to New Brunswick, spent 6 months in New Brunswick, got a job offer in New Brunswick, got her what do you call it now? Employment with Atlantic Immigration Pilot employer. She has gotten her endorsement and she's above 46 years. Because she knew that if it's Ontario, she will be in serious competition. She will still apply for her PR now, and it's 1 year program. It's just 1 year program she used, but she just did not waste her time in Ontario. So, like I said, if you're in Ontario, it's a combination of strategy, multiple strategies to get your provincial nomination in Ontario. But if you are schooling somewhere else, or if you have schooled somewhere else, you don't need to worry yourself about trying to do another program to get the 3 years PGWP. Okay, so I just have 1 more minute. I don't know how we will do this. Maybe I'll just add an extra 10 minutes. I've been talking for the past 1 hour. I'll add an extra 10 minutes and try to see how I can wrap up. Okay. So how do you justify your POF origins when you were not paid by bank transfer, was making extra money through indirect activities such as bike riding and weekly meetings contributions? Okay. So to justify your POF origin when you are not paid by bank transfer, in this case, you were receiving cash, right? And you were putting the cash in your account. I would say if you have, what do you call it now? Proof of your registered business. Bike riding is also a registered business. And if you are submitting remitting monies to all these is it national, is I don't know whether you're a Nigerian, but in Nigeria they call them National Union of Road Transport Workers, right? You remit some monies to them, they give you ticket, they give you certificate and all of that. If you are in that particular group, of course you must join a union or something like that, you must get a receipt for you to operate. So all those documents, all those receipts used to operate your bike riding, those documents are evidence of the source of funds. You can present those documents. All those receipts you pay to your road transport union, receipts you pay to the community people where you operate and all of that, to register your bike and all of that, all those documents, you present them as part of this, the source of the documents that shows that you're getting income from bike riding. That's number one. Now, for weekly meeting contributions, of course, I don't know whether you are still part of the people that join contributions where there is no proper paper arrangement or paper agreement. I mean, for me, especially for me being in Canada, I like to document everything, right? So I believe that everybody should start imbibing that action of documenting all that you're doing. For the weekly meeting contributions, is there a document that everybody signed that this is how much you will be contributing? This is your turn to take your own. This is the next person's turn to take your own. There has to be a document. So that document is sufficient enough for you to show evidence of your source of money. I hope I've answered your question. There has to be a document. I mean, you can't just give money to somebody that's, oh, because this person is doing contribution, okay, come and take my money. No. If the person runs away with your money, which documents will you use to prove, especially if you have to go to court? So you have to have a document. There must be a formal agreement between you and the person you're contributing to, that you're contributing. This is how much you're contributing on a monthly basis, and this is how much you will take at the end of the month. They call it thrift contribution. So there has to be a document. Use that document to show as your proof of funds origin. Okay, I'll move on to the next. In Nigeria, what certificate can one present for trade skill? Apart from Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor, what of ITF? Would their certificate be recognized? For trade, it's only Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor that is recognized. ITF is not recognized. ITF is not recognized. Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor, they are the ones that handle anything trades. Okay. Salary certificate from employer. Okay. I've heard about the PGWP extension for people that have their PGWP expiry. Is that true? So it depends on the province. The PGWP expiring is not PGWP per se. They said work permit, right? Alberta and Manitoba, they were able to negotiate with RUCC concerning extending worker status by at least, is it 1 year or 2 years? So it's only Alberta and Manitoba that negotiated that. The other provinces, they didn't negotiate. So for those who are living in, working in Alberta and Manitoba, and they did a cutoff, and I know for Manitoba, they said if your work permit was expiring and you had submitted your application for provincial nomination, something like that, as at May 2024, then you are eligible and you qualify. Anybody that comes in after May does not qualify. So it's only Alberta and Manitoba that has that agreement with RUCC to extend work permit. The only way you can extend your work permit if your PGWP is expiring is if you have gotten a provincial nomination. Number one, you can extend it under the bridging open work permit, or you get a letter of support from your from the province that gave you provincial nomination to extend your work permit, especially if you have applied for your permanent residence. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. What are my chances with Alberta PMP with age 40, 75? So if you're in Alberta, I would recommend that you try to get a job offer in the Alberta Rural Renewal Stream, any of the communities under the Rural Renewal Stream. That is what I would recommend, because that pathway is not looking at your language scores. They are looking at the job offer and the recommendation you get from your community. That's what they are looking at. They are not looking at your language scores. So do not focus on the other pathways. Focus on getting a job offer from the rural communities in Alberta. Okay, junior account, and I'm a facility manager. I want to relocate to Canada. Which is the best option? I don't know what your qualifications are, your educational qualifications are for me to really advise. But as a facility manager, I believe you have experience in, let's say, hiring people to come and do some maintenance work, right? If you have experience in hiring people to come and do maintenance work, that means you qualify under the trades category. That's the category-based draw for trades. You qualify under that pathway. But I don't know your educational qualifications. I don't know your language scores for me to really advise which option will be better for you. Okay. Someone is on a spousal work permit and has a full-time permanent role. What happens if the partner doesn't apply for a spousal extension due to a breakdown in marriage? Okay, so it depends on who between the two of you, or who between the two spouses the spousal work permit is anchored on. Let me explain. So let's say I come to Canada as a student, right? And then my spouse comes in. My spouse's spousal work permit is under my application as the student. Now, if there is a situation that causes a marriage breakdown and this person's work permit is tied to the spouse's study permit, that means if the spouse, who is the student, does not want to continue, if the student applies for a PGWP, it will automatically affect the spouse. because the student has to provide documents to support the spouse's application for extension, if or anything. So what you have to do is you have to find a way to get a PR, or you have to find a way to get an LMIA job offer so that you can break out from that what do you call it now, work permit, or that time. Because one person's application is tied to the other person cannot apply for anything extension without this person's documents. The person, your spouse, will have to provide proof of her employment, and with that proof of employment, you will now use it to apply for your extension. Now, if your spouse is not willing to provide the proof of employment, it means that you cannot apply for your work permit extension. So that means you have to find a way out, like find a way of getting another employer that can hire you either under LMIA exempt or with LMIA. Or you try to get your PR, as in if you've worked for 1 year before everything happened, if you've worked for 1 year, that means you qualify for the Canadian Experience class. Or if it depends on the province you are in, if you're a province like Manitoba, if you are your spouse were in a province like Manitoba, you need only 6 months work experience to apply for provincial nomination. So you can actually chart your own PR pathway without your spouse. But when it comes to work permit extension, your work permit extension is tied to your spouse's application. But if it's PR, you can chart your own path without your spouse. I don't know if I'm able to answer that question properly. Sorry. If you still need clarifications, please send an email so that I can give you further clarifications. I'm just trying to, compress time. Time is running out. I'm so sorry if I don't answer every question. Please bear with me. Okay. Is the healthcare category express entry application still on hold? No, it's not on hold. The last draw they did was it 466? Thereabout? The last draw they did was a very low draw score. It's not on hold. So category is still ongoing, and is one of the category-based draw that will still continue. So it's not on hold. Okay, if someone has evaluated an agric certificate but has a work experience in health or trade, can the person apply under any of the two categories? I think I've already I've done the video about this. It's just that I've not uploaded the video yet. Yes, I've done a video about it. Sorry, but I've not uploaded it yet. Okay, so if someone has evaluated an agric certificate but has some work experience in health or trade, can the person apply under any of the two categories? Yes, the person can apply. But for healthcare, they are very, very particular about you getting your qualifications. So let's say you have your agric qualification evaluated, right? But you are working as a massage therapist. Massage therapist is actually one of the occupations that is under the category-based draw for healthcare. If you're working as a massage therapist, you should be able to show proof of a certificate that qualifies you to work as a massage therapist. It might not be a certificate that needs evaluation, but a certificate from a recognized institution, right? That proves that you have this qualification and you have this work experience. Same thing with trades that I've been talking about. Trades, you need at least a certificate to show. If it's an apprenticeship certificate, it has to be recognized by the Federal Ministry of Employment and Labor. So you have to show the certificate. Even if your evaluated credential is agric, at least there should be a certificate added to show that you have what it takes to work in that, that role. Because if you just show only experience and then show only your agric certificate, it's sending a wrong message to the immigration officers. So you have to have another certificate to back up your experience in healthcare. You have to show a certificate to back up your experience in trades. I hope I've answered that question. Yay, my people! I love my new Brunswickers. My new Brunswickers are showing me love. See my people. Thank you so much. Okay, so which province PMP is best option to take? I am UX UI designer. UX UI designer. I said that the tech occupation or tech occupations these days, because of what is actually going on, they've paused it under the category based draw. For PMP, I actually did mention Alberta, but someone mentioned that Alberta has paused its tech talent pathway. So the only province I can recommend right now is British Columbia. That's the only province. Ontario is tied to express entry as well. So when the federal does their express entry draw for tech, Ontario does its own. But for some time, federal has not done. So Ontario, they've not done their own as well. So the only province I can recommend is BC. But with BC, you need a job offer. You must have a job offer to apply for provincial nomination in British Columbia. Okay, how much POF is required for work permits with job offer and PMP approved from outside Canada? How much POF is required? So for POF, it is subject to your family size, right? Even if you have a job offer, you still have to show some form of funds because, when you come in, you still need money to rent a house, to buy some initial things. So you need to still show some proof of funds. I don't know what your family size is for me to recommend the POF you should show. And if your job offer is tied to a provincial nomination pathway, typically you show the proof of funds that is required for express entry, typically, because you're applying for provincial nomination, and provincial nomination proof of funds is the same proof of funds for express entry. So you show the proof of funds that is required for express entry. Okay, so I'm exhausting. This is my last question I'll answer, and then I will wrap it up because I've been talking for the past 1 hour, 15 minutes. Please, how true is this news that Canada wants to stop international students that immigrated through the study route from applying for PR after studies? This is not true. That is not true. It's one of the negative rumors that have been going around that Canada wants to stop international students that immigrated through the study route from applying for PR. No, it's not true. Canada is not stopping immigration. PRO is ongoing. The only thing they are trying to reduce is the number of temporary residents coming in, especially those who are coming to abuse the system, right? That's what they are doing. So you have, they have rolled out occupations that will be eligible for postgraduate work permit, but those who were already in Canada, they will still at least find a way to become permanent residents. And even the announcement they made was that 40% of the permanent resident slot for 2025 is dedicated to those who are in Canada. So it means that if 40% is dedicated to those who are in Canada, 60% of that slot is dedicated to people who are outside Canada, right? So the total number of people they are expecting to become permanent resident in 2025 is about 380,000 or 360,000 thereabout. I don't have the correct figure in my head, but out of that 385,000, 40% of that number will be from inside Canada, and then 60% from outside. So even if more than 40% get their PR, it's still fine. So if you still want to come to Canada next year to come and study, the only thing you should do is position yourself, get a program that aligns with the occupations that are in demand, that is eligible for postgraduate work permit. You cannot just choose a random program to come and study. You have to choose a program that aligns with the occupations that is in demand, and then that is eligible for PGWP, so that after you finish your program, you can apply for provincial nomination or apply for permanent residence. Okay. Yes, so my oga, I dey hail you. I dey hail. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining this live session. Thank you. Okay. I just finished studying a 2-year course as a second course, yet to get a full-time job in Sudbury. Please, which pathway is best for me as RNIP is closed for now? So the pathway that is best for you is the in-demand stream. The Ontario in-demand stream. Try to get a job offer as a PSW, and then you qualify for the Ontario in-demand stream. You also qualify, if you get a job offer as a PSW, you qualify for the in-demand stream. But if you get a job offer in another occupation entirely, there's a possibility of you qualifying for the international student stream. And then if you write your CELPIP, you have very high scores, you should be able to come through the express entry route, right? Yeah, depends on your high scores in IELTS and your age as well and your qualifications. So all these things are factors that combined to see whether you qualify for express entry. But try as much as possible to get a PSW job, especially in the Sudbury area. If you don't get to the Sudbury, move to another area outside the GTA area and then get a PSW job, and then you qualify for the in-demand stream. Okay, please, this will be the very... Okay, I'll take 2 more questions, then I will end this session. Okay, as a follow-up to trades explanation, please kindly break down of the steps about how to apply for PR under the trade skill pathway. Maybe I'll do a video about it so that you get it, because if I try to start to explain the step-by-step process, it will take my time. I'll do a video about it. Let me move on to the next. Okay, my PGWP is expiring in March 2025 as a production operator, and I got a job offer to resume in 2 weeks. Can I apply for extension of my work permit by March 2025 for approval? So this is one of the tricks that some people are doing, which is not right, because if you are not eligible to apply for extension, then why are you applying for the extension? You know, if you're not eligible to apply for a PGWP extension, the only people that can apply for PGWP extension are people who actually applied for PGWP when their passport was expiring. So let's say your passport was expiring within the next 2 months, and then you apply for PGWP. Meanwhile, you still have like 10 months to go, right? Then you're eligible to apply for a PGWP extension. Other than that, you cannot apply for a PGWP extension if you are not eligible. The only way you can apply for work permit is if you have gotten a provincial nomination. If you've gotten a provincial nomination, then you can apply for a work permit extension. But if you have not gotten a provincial nomination, the only thing you can do is to apply for a visitor's record to continue to remain while you try to get a provincial nomination and then get your PR. I don't know which province you are in for me to advise. If you're in Ontario and you've not created your expression of interest, that means please go ahead and do it, so that when they do start their draws in January, they'll be able to pick you under the in-demand stream. I believe production operator is under one of the occupations in demand in Ontario. So you should be able to get provincial nomination. But Ontario these days, they've been delaying their provincial nomination, what do you call it now? They are delaying issuing provincial nomination a lot. Ontario, is one province that used to be fast in issuing provincial nominations. But from my experience with them, they have delayed provincial nomination significantly this year. I don't know why. Maybe they will change next year. Okay, so I think this is the last question I will take. Please, if I have not answered your question, please don't be offended. Okay, let me answer this, my brother's question, because he's very dear to me. So he's the only person that will make that will make me answer this question before I close. Okay, I have a registered business with a CRA business number and family income is 6 figures. How do I get the payroll number? I would like to hire a family as a caregiver. Okay, so you call CRA. So if you have a CRA business number, is the CRA business number in your name? Is it a sole proprietor or a corporation? Because there are 2 types of business numbers. There's a business number tied to sole proprietor, which is your own name. And then there's a business number tied to corporation, if you have a business registered as a corporation. So if your business number is tied to your name, meaning you can hire somebody to work for you, then yes, all you need to do is call CRA. They will give you a payroll number. They'll just give you a payroll number. They might ask you, what do you want it for? You tell them you want it to hire somebody as a child caregiver. They will give you a payroll number. So that's just it. Okay, so please bear with me if I've not answered your question today. Maybe I should do this live often so that I answer all the questions out of the way, instead of having too many emails and all of that and too many comments in the comment section. But I like the comments anyway. So thank you so much. Please bear with me if I've not answered all of your questions. I will try, if you can send them in an email, I will try as much as possible to respond, or I will create a video to respond to your questions. Please bear with me. Thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube live. I'm hoping that I do the live again next week Sunday. I'm hoping that I do the live again next week Sunday. And yeah, and let's see how it goes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And have a good evening. Have a beautiful week ahead. And may all your desires, heart desires, come to pass. For those who are in Canada, I pray that you get your permanent residency applications approved. I pray that the policies will turn in your favor. I know that all of these things that is going on is just because of politics. That's just the truth. It's politics. Once politics is over, we will be back to our normal self. After politics, everything will calm down. For now, it's just they're just trying to hit the polity. Okay, so hopefully next week Sunday I'll come back for another live. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time with me this evening. Thank you.